the midst of it. So I make my time.
Mine's the dirtiest. Oh, yeah.
Hey, good morning. Thank you guys for being here and being a part of PIDAC. This is a new role for me. So I'm taking over, for those of you who are familiar with Wanda Wilkinson, who's done it for many years. So I'm the new Wanda, but I only hope to be half as great as she is because she's fabulous. But I appreciate all of you taking the time. I'm so excited. We actually get to meet in person to start the year off, and hopefully we're going to stay this way. But I'll always offer it via Zoom for those that don't feel comfortable, or it may be difficult for you to get here. So you can always log in via Zoom, and I'll share that link. So I just want to thank you. And I know for those of you that your principals or assistant principals sent in your name, I know they appreciate you being here. It's hard for them to get away from the school to be here and be a part of it. Some of them will log in via Zoom. But it's difficult because their main job right now are to be with the kids and take care of their needs and make sure everything at the school is running. So we appreciate you being here, being that liaison between the school and here. You know, we're here to support and offer. We want to work together as a team, but we need our community along with the schools and parents in order for all of us to work together to make all of our students here in Putnam County better, and that we can compete with other districts just as well. And we just want to continue to grow. And so I just want to say I appreciate you being here. Before we get started, and I know y'all are going to hate this, but we are going to have to do some introductions. So some of you aren't real thrilled about that, but that's okay. We'll do it quick and easy. But I do want to make sure, first of all, there is the district parent family engagement plan. There's an English copy and a Spanish copy on the table. Make sure you got a copy of that. These are also placed at the schools so that anytime a parent asks for this, we have it available in English and Spanish. So there's always one at the front desk available. Also, there's the Department of Federal Programs. So it's a little bit about federal programs. This is also placed at the front desk at the school for any parent ask for this. So I wanted you guys to have a copy of that and be able to read over that. You should have a copy of the agenda. And at the bottom of the agenda, there is a, you'll see a QR code, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And hopefully you all picked up also a copy of the calendar for the year for PIDAC. So that's going to be pretty much, the meetings are going to be every third Wednesday at 10 a.m. There is an exception. Of course, this month we had to change it from the third Wednesday, but in March, because of spring break, it'll fall during spring break. So we'll meet the very next Wednesday, but that is on the calendar. So if anything were to ever change, we have your email address, and I'll keep you up to date on that. But I wanted you to have a copy of that. Also, there was a flyer up there with some parent resources. So just some resources I thought might be helpful for parents if they're helping their child with homework and they don't know where to begin or what to do. That is a resource. Those are free resources that you can use. There are some audio books that, you know, for to, you know, put on to let them read to your children. You know, I know we're all busy and they're in the car. I know we're all listening to podcasts, and so sometimes that's just easier to have the audio version of books. So I've put those resources there. If you need any other resources, you know, please reach out to us at Federal Programs. I can direct you to the right person, or you can, of course, check with your child's teacher or your school. So I'm going to start, I should have introduced myself first, but I am Michelle Michaels. So I am the coordinator of parent and family engagement. I also do audit box for the schools and I help in other areas. So if we can start over here, if everyone can just introduce yourselves. If you work for the school district, let us know your title. And then if you are representing one or more schools because your children go to one or more schools, let us know that also, okay? Do you mind starting? Okay.
Not at all. My name is Jackie Huntley. I'm a parent. My kids go to Melrose Elementary School, and I've had kids there since 2011. So my oldest right now is at Crescent City High School. He lives with his dad now and for high school, and my other two are in the 4th grade and the 6th grade. Thankfully, Melrose got to keep it 6th grade, but he was in the honors program anyway, so he would have stayed there. So we fought to keep Melrose open, and we're just looking forward to continuing to work together and do better things.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allison Mourini. I have kids at Melrose and I have kids at QI Roberts. And I don't work for the district, but sometimes I feel like I do because I am not involved with the parent.
Yeah, we're both substitute teachers at the school too, so we have perspectives from the classroom and parents and just our relationships that we've built with the faculty over the years.
Yeah, it's always nice to be a substitute to see that side of it.
Yeah, you have a whole new appreciation for what
Yeah.
teachers do. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ramonda. Some people call me Cherie. I am our Title III ELO support leader for the district. So I have the privilege of working with a lot of individuals in this room for federal programs.
Now I got Stan.
Cherie set the standard.
I was trying to keep it calm.
My name is Priscilla Perry, and I work for federal programs with some migrant education programs. So Cherie and I work kind of hand in hand. We're a duo. And happy to be here. Thank you.
And I am Michelle Higginbotham. I'm the Administrator of Student Support Initiatives. I work with our after-school programs, 21st Century, and also our SOAR and Beam grants, which are the distance learning initiatives that we have here in the district. So, thank you.
I'm Jane Johnson. I have a 3rd grader at Melrose Elementary, and with the potential of Melrose closing last year, I just realized how important it is as a parent to be involved and do what we can to be available.
Awesome.
And
Thank
to keep things, between teachers and the schools and the school district. So
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm Michael Johnson. I'm James husband and Waylon Johnson's father at Melrose Elementary.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome.
I'm Patricia Champagne. I am a part of the instructional services group at PIDAC, and I have a 7th grader. Let me think about it. 8th grader and a 5th grader at Beacon Elementary.
Time flies. And then we don't even know what happened to last year, right?
I feel like we skipped a year.
Yeah. Thank you. Welcome.
I'm Megan Altman. I have a 7th grader at QI and a 2nd grader at Kelly Smith. And I'm here because I was told to be here. Thanks. I have a 10th grader, a 7th grader, 6th grader, and a 4th grader. And I'm here for Kelly Smith.
And she takes care of all of the seniors every year, just saying. I mean, I know that she is always on there helping all the seniors and giving them gifts. And so I'm going to brag on her a little bit, but she did it for my son his senior year. But then last year I saw all the things that she was doing. So she's always super involved. And yeah, and Kathy Oyster did say, I'm sorry, but the two of you, she sent in your names. You didn't have an option from Kathy. I'm sorry. She voluntold. Yes. So, but thank y'all for being here.
Good morning. I'm going to stand up so I see everybody's face. So my name is Wendy Hansford. I'm with Take Stock in Children. And Take Stock in Children is operated by Dismissal Industries of North Florida. And if you're not familiar with it, what Take Stock in Children is a mentoring scholarship program for low-income students. And if they apply and get enrolled into our program, we mentor them in graduation and they receive a 2-year Florida prepaid scholarship that they can use at a tech school or a state college. They can use that at university level just for the most part. So we're just here trying to, encourage our kids to continue their education beyond high school.
And I'm raising my grandson. He's going to one of the best schools. So I think you know. And he's playing in the band. So I'm here to represent him. And I just was asked last night to do it.
Well, we thank you for coming last minute then.
I'm saying I was also volunteer. I have two kids.
Voluntold.
Black and white. Yes, 7 and 10.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm David Parsons. I'm the RAN compliance facilitator for federal programs. So I make sure that everything that our schools are buying are actually allowable in the grants that they're buying from. So.
And you have kids. And you have kids.
Yeah.
I have kids at Kelly Smith.
Dave Panetti, I'm coordinator of homeless education, and I have 3 at James A. Long and 1 at Norton Junior Senior High.
And pre-K.
And I'm free.
I'm Casey Griffiths. I'm the Acceleration Cambridge Specialist for the Putnam County School District. I work at federal programs, and I also have a child at Kelly Smith Elementary.
I'm Lorena Domini, and I work for federal programs, and I am the STEM resource teacher.
Nice.
My name is Michael Helms. I'm the STEM specialist, and I have a kid in pre-K,
Oh, oh my
pre-K center.
Yeah, the Frequency Center now. Oh, yeah. Don't see, I knew it. She was just like, if I keep taking pictures, Michelle's gonna forget all about me.
I'm Jamie Turner. I work federal programs. I did my job at Michelle.
And she does our website, which she does a great job. And that's one of the resources on your paper too. Just don't forget to use Putnam County School District. Federal programs is on that same website and your school's website to get important information. And then of course, if you see something, you have a question, just ask about it. But Jamie handles that in our Facebook for federal programs too. So she does a lot of things. All right, Dana.
I'm Dana Wilkinson. I am the inventory control for federal programs, and I chase parts over it.
She gets all of those computers and everything in the schools and set up for the schools. So I know the schools appreciate her. We are. We'll let y'all want to introduce yourself. Our guest speaker today is Ashley McCool. Dr. Rick Sarncy is at a superintendent's conference, and so he likes to come to every meeting, but he is unable to make this meeting. But Ashley is going to speak for him today, so I'll let Ashley go ahead and introduce, and then we can go.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay? I apologize. I'm not there in person. We have another set of meetings going on in our boardroom I'm to be a part of. So I did this so I could quickly be in both places. But I am Ashley McCool, and I'm currently serving as the Director of Community Relations for the district. Dr. Sarncy would be here, but he is at a state superintendent's meeting in Orlando right now, right in the middle of one of his meetings, or typically he'll jump out and get on Zoom as well. But I just want to welcome everyone. Excited to see that you all are in person. And as many of you may have known, part of the school consolidation this year enabled federal programs to move to a much larger space. And I just am sitting here thinking of how nice it is that you guys have the cafeteria from Silo versus the old portable that you always had to utilize in previous meetings when we were doing them face to face. So Wanda would be jealous right now, Michelle. But yeah, just excited to be here, and thank you all.
Thank you. Becky, you're next.
I'm Becky Moats. I work at the district office now. Last year I was with my federal programs family, so it's nice to see all of them digitally. I miss all of you guys. I am the district graduation coach, and am currently working with all the junior, senior high schools, 7th through 12th grade, just helping with our portrait of a graduate initiatives throughout the schools. Glad to see everybody.
Thank you, Becky.
Good morning, everyone. I am Justin Campbell. I am also at the district office. This time last year, I was with federal programs as well. Missed you all. I am the coordinator of student support, and I just provide support to the various schools in any way that I am needed.
Thank you, Justin. And is that, I think that's all that I think that's everyone that's on. So real quick before Ashley speaks, because I know she is supposed to be at another meeting and she's going to speak on some things that they actually, she and Dr. Surrency spoke to our 80K teacher sorority. They did a great job answering a lot of questions, giving us a good description of like the process of building new schools, and then, you know, the process of, you know, closing some of the schools, and, you know, kind of talking a little bit on that. So I'll let her do that. But before I do that, I wanted just a couple of housekeeping things. Restrooms, these restrooms are currently out there. You can see them digging, and there's a lot of things going on over here. So you're gonna have to go all the way towards the front of the school and use those restrooms. We have the outside ones, but we also have a lounge in there that you're welcome to use those restrooms. Please feel free to have waters in the cooler over there if you need something. You know, help yourself get up, but we'll do brunch afterwards when we finish the meeting. And I have a parking lot over here. So there's burning questions and then got a suggestion. So the sticky notes on your table are for if you have a question about anything, if Ashley's speaking and, you know, something pops in your head and you just want to jot it down, you can then, when you go to leave, you can put your name on it or just ask a question in general. We could address it for the next time, but just put it under burning questions. And then if you have any suggestions for our next meeting or for speakers or suggestions of anything that maybe you want to see happening at your schools, you can just put it on a sticky note, stick it over there, and I'll read through those. If you put your name on it, then I'll try to get back to you personally. But if you're, it's just in general, we'll try to get those questions answered, and that'll be on our agenda for next month. Yes.
So on each meeting, we'll probably get like a little text to know when the next meeting is.
Well, if that's how you prefer to do that, if you give me your cell phone number, I will be glad to just like take a picture of the meeting and send out reminders via text. I thought about setting up a remind to do it that way. I just talked to a couple people about it, and they're like, we have reminds for everything. And they were like, oh, that's one more remind. So I thought, okay, it's not that large of a group. I don't mind with your phone number, just sending out a remind text, and I'll keep all of your names and your phone numbers. And some of you have email addresses, others that I didn't get those yet. So I'll do it multiple ways just to make sure. We'll always run it in the paper. We'll put it on the district's website. We'll get the word out as many ways as we can. I know a lot of people don't get the paper anymore, but yeah. So in the school board on their website, they post it, but I will be glad with your phone numbers to text that to you. Absolutely. On your agenda, you'll see a QR code. So at the end of the meeting, if you don't mind, just there's a Google survey, and it's just kind of asking some questions about today's meeting and maybe how to take some of your suggestions to change the meeting up for next time. Just want to hear from you guys and what you think about it. There's also, if you have suggestions of who you would like to hear speak, like if you want someone to come speak about the new curriculum, you know, that your kids are, that just was pushed out this year and your kids are going through that, we'll have someone from Jenna Zula's department to come. So just different things like that. So there's a couple of suggestions that you could just check on the box, or there's a place for you to type in your own suggestion. Anything else that not covered? I'm just trying to think. Okay, well, if Ashley, if you're ready and you don't mind, I'll let you go ahead and get started so you can get back to your other meetings.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here. You know, part of my work in this new position is to engage with our community, and our parents and families are some of our most important stakeholders. So we appreciate that. So I'm not going to talk for too long, I'd like to give you an opportunity to ask any questions you may have, because some of you know this has been an interesting start to a year for us. Thanks to COVID-19 not going away as we had once hoped. It has created some challenges for all of our schools, especially our families, in terms of our staffing. I know you've probably heard about transportation issues we've had, and our we still have 30 bus driver openings. If anyone out there has a CDL or is interested in getting it, we're always looking. So so those are some of the challenges we have faced with the beginning of the school year. Probably things that you've also heard about include arrival dismissal procedures, because we have new schools in terms of how we configured those schools. As part of our revitalization plan, it was crucial for us to begin to right size our district so that we would be eligible for special facilities funding from the state. And that's how you build new schools. So there's two ways you can build a new school. One is through special facilities funding, and the other way is through a bond issue, which will go to our voters November of 2022. Those two sets of funding that we are working on will enable us to build 9 schools over the next 10 years. So in order to right size our district, we have to look at the number of what they consider, the Department of Education considers student stations versus the actual number of students in a building. And we were far under capacity for that. Over the past 10 years, we've had a declining enrollment in Putnam County. We do anticipate that that's going to shift in another direction soon, but you have to do everything based on the numbers you currently have. We're happy to say when school started this year that we did not have a decline. We've actually had an increase of a couple of hundred students. We believe that's due to some redshirt kindergartners. So we say that jokingly that a lot of folks chose to keep their kids out last year because it's legally, you don't have to put kids in school until they're 6 years old. So we have a lot of families that did not want to start their students in kindergarten last year because of COVID. So we do have an increased number of kindergartners this year. So overall, we're up, which is a great thing. So we've consolidated down to 13 schools, a K-6 configuration and a 7-12. And so far, we feedback from our principals, our 6th graders love being where they were. That wasn't an issue too much for them. They kind of knew where they were. We had one school, Mellon, that had to be dispersed amongst other schools, but those schools have done a great job of welcoming those students. And then our 7-12 configuration has been kind of exciting for those kids. I know you may have seen some of the athletics going on. We have a junior high football team at each of our schools that those kids are really enjoying getting to go ahead and be Panthers and Raiders and Rams. And so that has been a hot topic this year in terms of how is that going. And certainly there are challenges. If you've ever worked in a middle school, you could understand when you add middle school students to a high school, it does sort of shift the focus for discipline. Middle school children act differently than high school children. So they are, I think our high school principals are doing an amazing job of really kind of creating that new school community this year. I am going to share my screen if that's okay. Oh, can you give me screen sharing, Mikey? I need permission. I want to share with you our district's strategic plan. And I do that because the strategic plan was developed in part by a lot of community stakeholders. And if you remember back in the spring, some of you may have completed a survey for us to ask the kinds of questions that we needed to find out what our focus should be over the next 5 years. And that plan has been approved by our school board and it is in place. And I just quickly wanted to share some of the strategies with you. All right. Can you all see that okay? Michelle, are y'all good? Can you guys see it? Okay. So there is an introduction and all of this is also found on our website, so you can access this later. A new vision was written for the district. We shape the future of our community by preparing all students for success in college, career, and life. And we are using the tagline, Shape the Future. So you may have seen our new logo and the new tagline, and you'll see that on a lot of the documents that come home, as well as what you see on the website and social media. Our mission is to provide a student-centered, safe, and caring environment that promotes academic excellence, reflects diversity, celebrates the joy of learning, and equips all students with knowledge and tools to achieve their full potential in an ever-changing world. And the areas that we value are accountability, growth, integrity, leadership, relationships, and respect. And so from that came this work around, we've done a great job in our district of getting kids across the stage and improving our grad rate, right? So we have been bragging about that for many years. We are up to a 90.1% graduation rate. It is the highest growth in the state in terms of we went from 54 to 90 in a very short amount of time. We're very proud of that. But what are we doing to prepare kids beyond that stage and getting across and getting that diploma? And some work out of our CTE department in our AVID program became this sort of defining, what does a Putnam County School District graduate look like? And you will also see throughout the school, these are not in our classrooms yet, but they are currently being printed. So you'll see this in a lot of places. This is our portrait of a graduate poster with a QR code where you can learn more about these areas by going to a link to our website. But the 6 areas that were defined as what we want our graduates to sort of be are innovative problem solvers, engaged collaborators, confident communicators, fearless learners, global citizens, and resilient individuals. And so a lot of the things that you see happening in our classrooms will be connected to these pieces. So at all grade levels, so even in kindergarten and first grade, when we have kids working in teams, we have a huge emphasis in our academic area around academic teaming. That improves kids and humans' ability to collaborate, right? To understand each other, to recognize differences, to productively solve problems that you may disagree on, things like that. So you will see these around the district and in all of our departments pretty soon. I wanted to share that with you. All right. And going back to the plan, there is that part about the portrait of a graduate as part of our plan, and then all the strategies happen. So what is this plan going to look like over 5 years? And there are 5 areas of focus. Those are academic excellence, developing a premier workforce, focus in on the whole child, safety and modernization, and community collaboration. And under each of these are particular strategies that were developed in teams. So each of these areas had a team of folks that included teachers, it included business leaders, it included parents. I led one of the teams and we met to kind of come up with the strategies and define some action steps. My group was the whole child group. And so you will see, you'll see things happening throughout this year and over the next 5 years that apply to that. So yesterday at the board meeting, we released our new webpage focused on mental health. So that is something that falls under the area of whole child. Safety and modernization is the 10-year plan to revitalize our facilities, falls under that area. So pretty much anything we do around the district, if it does not focus on one of these strategies or action steps, it may not be highest priority. So pretty soon we'll have on our webpage, it should be by the end of this month, so hopefully by next week, a new webpage dedicated to the strategic plan that will also show how we're going to measure success. So what are the data points we use to start this work, and then how will we know we were successful at that? So your group in PIDAC is hugely important to providing us feedback because you do represent every school, and our work is embedded in those 13 buildings. Everything we do at the district office and federal programs, it has to be connected to those 13 buildings and what we're doing for students and families. And so your contribution in this group is hugely important for us to get the feedback we need to be sure we are on track and supporting our families the way we should. And I feel certain that Michelle is going to do an amazing job in communicating that with all the stakeholders here in the district. You'll notice if you're new to PIDAC that there are a lot of different grants, there are a lot of different initiatives we do in the district that require us to get feedback from interest groups. And so you'll notice from time to time people throughout the district coming to PIDAC to say, hey, we need your support with this, or we need your opinion on this. And so please know that it's not just a federal programs group. You will be a group for the district in terms of feedback throughout the year. And so I hope you will listen to those people in your community. When I say community, I mean people you go to church with, people you hang out with, people that are in your school community. Give us that information. We have the communication between the district and the community has to be two-way. So it can't always be us telling you what we think should be good and going on, but it has to be, there has to be opportunities for you to give information to us. So that is really all I wanted to share with you from my side, but I do want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. I know there's a lot of folks that have questions about COVID and just different beginning of year things that I'm certainly happy to help with. If I can't answer it, I can get an answer to you. And throughout the year, please know that if you do have questions about anything within the district, any of our departments or situations, that I will be glad to help you at least listen to the question and get you as much information as I can. So thank you, Michelle. And on behalf of Dr. Cernsey, who could not be here today, you know, I know he sends his well wishes and his appreciation for what you're doing as well. So any questions?
Floor for questions. So if you have a question, if you'll just speak loudly, it can pick that up, and we'll let Ashley answer any questions y'all may have.
And I can hear everyone pretty well. I did when you guys did your introductions. So
go ahead.
Mrs. McCool, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
As we're working with all the schools, and if the school has some kind of initiative that they're doing that they would like to share across the district, would you be the person that we should tell them to contact to put that on our Facebook page or
yes,
on the website? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to get a better, what would be a better protocol for folks at the schools that can post things. So there's some training that needs to happen with our website design team. I'm working with Jamie actually this week about federal programs website. There's just a lot I'm learning, but absolutely. So either myself or Felicia Cahan, and we have the capability when we push things out through our Facebook, we typically push it out on our website first. And we do have the capability to push things out one time to all of the platforms. Something new that we're excited about in our little department is we currently can push out to Facebook, Twitter, and the website at one time. And beginning September 27th, Instagram has finally agreed to allow third parties to post, which is a real technical thing, but it's a big deal. Facebook bought Instagram a while back, but up until now, we've not been able to push out unless you go to that site directly and post. So that's about to happen as well. So for those who prefer Instagram and following us that way. And we also just ask folks to please, if you are on social media, take opportunities to share that. It does provide a stronger level of engagement. It puts things in the face of our families and students to remind them of the things we're doing and the resources we have there available. So we just always ask people to like our social media sites, to go to our website. Lots of times you'll see on a Facebook post, it will actually be a link and it opens up a new browser of our website. So we're real proud of that. And we've worked really hard and are going to continue to work very hard this year to kind of clean that up and be sure that it's super user friendly. And I've had people call me and just be like, I can't find this. And that is good information for me. That says this should be under a quick link. This is something people are looking for and they can't find it. And so that allows us to say, how do we need to remap this to make it more user-friendly? So feedback is super important in terms of how we're communicating things. All right.
I have a question, Ashley.
Mhm.
In our,
I don't know where the camera is.
it'll kick you up right here when you speak.
It does.
I don't know that this is the correct platform for it, so I'm just gonna kind of just generalize what I need to ask. I have questions about specifically the curriculum, the math pacing guide.
Mhm.
That I would like to maybe reach out to somebody that I can talk to about that, as well as in ELA and in science. I know that the district has kind of handed or passed down the grading weights, 60% comes from tests, you know, and that's fine. I mean, that's kind of how it is in college. But my concern is the actual tests that are given compared to the curriculum that's being covered. I have specific questions related to the science, the use of USA test prep, compared to the book that they're using, and how well that is an adequate representation of the content covered in the book. For example, 6th grade had 5 questions that was supposed to cover 4 lessons, 40 pages of content. That's not an accurate representation of what they're learning in class. It makes it very difficult for students. So questions regarding that, and the fact that they can't use any other tests, even though the book has book tests that go along with it. For ELA, standards mastery that they're using, there is that grading correlation where if they get this grade in the standards mastery test, they're told to enter this grade into Skyward. So I have questions as to why is there this difference in the grade entered in Skyward versus the grade they actually got if the standards mastery is actually doing a good job of testing our kids. I have mixed feelings about if you score low, your minimum grade is a 50. I get that that keeps their averages from tanking, but on the other side, on the flip side, that doesn't actually give an accurate representation of where the kids are. For example, my high schooler, he's out of my 3 children, he's the one that's least academic. He will sit sometimes in class and do nothing, get a 0, but really it goes in the grade book as a 50. As a parent, I'm not okay with that. Those aren't that's not teaching consequences. But I understand there's students that struggle, that you don't want 1-0 to bring down their bad grades. So questions specifically about curriculum maps, pacing guide, questions about the 60% testing category and whether or not it's an accurate tool. If a USA test prep is being used accurately, I got off the phone today. I spoke with a representative from USA test prep to find out actually how their program is supposed to be used. There's wonderful testimonials online. I don't think it's being implemented to the best of its ability right now, but I don't have all the information. So I wanted to kind of see where the district was coming from when it made these decisions, and maybe we can find a happy medium somewhere.
Great. That's a really important question. And it has come up a lot this week because progress reports went home, and between beginning of the school year and COVID and people being out, there's been a lot of really disappointment in terms of teachers and families when the grade may not reflect what people believe students are capable of. So you bring up a really important point that comes up a lot, and that is this whole connection between the grade reflecting what the student can do in terms of the actual standard. And our teaching and learning department is under the direction of Jenna Zula, and she typically would come to PIDAC and bop in and be available to answer some questions, but she is also in that meeting over in the boardroom right now. But that is going to be the person you're going to want to talk to specifically about that. USA Test Prep is the tool we are using for science. So specifically, our science leaders, Ryan Zimmerman would have been the one who selected the items from those assessments that are given at each grade level. And those are shared with teachers ahead of time. So they do know it's sort of it's a more of a summative assessment. So you will see fewer questions covering multiple pieces of content, which is more in line to how they're assessed in the spring. And so we try really hard to align that. But you ask really important questions that I think that Jen would do a better job of really speaking to and giving you some feedback on, as well as your school principals. So the principals are right now talking to a lot of families and trying to reassure them that, that a progress report is just that. It's just to show you, this is how we're grading. This is what it will look like this year. This is where your child stands right now, but there is time to make those improvements. In terms of the base 50, that is an accepted district expectation that we don't penalize students for zeros. It is mathematically very difficult to pull yourself out of a zero. And so that is something most of our, especially our high school principals have made that a standard, that if a student receives a zero, it's a base 50 in the grade book. There is a lot of research both ways for that. The majority of the research shows that kids have an opportunity to pull themselves out and be more successful, and they're more motivated to do so if they are working from a base 50 versus zeros. When a student ends up with a few zeros and their grade is a 30, they lose motivation when they know on week 4 that they have no chance of pulling that up by week 9. And so that is where that research falls. But I would like, if Michelle can give me your contact information, I'll talk with Jen Azula and be sure someone gets back to you this week so that they're aware of what the questions are. And then as the district, we probably need to do a push out some information about the new progress reports and things like that. So I don't know if I answered what you wanted to hear, but I do hear you, and I do recognize that is something that a lot of families are feeling right now.
I don't want to take up a ton of time from here, but prior to you reaching out, could I maybe talk with you at some point? Because
absolutely. Yeah, I'm available. I will plan to be there for all PIDAC meetings, but my office is right at the front of the district office, right behind the front desk. So you can find me here, or you can call the front desk and get me anytime.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jen was going to be here, but like Ashley stated, she did email me. She had that.
Because I did hear what she said about it is, yes, most parents don't realize these things until progress reports. Right. I'm not speaking from that most parents' perspective. Sure. I've been aware of this for years, just never had the opportunity to voice it. I got you. This isn't, oh, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. The teachers don't actually, they haven't been told they can go and see the test questions and maybe help their students prepare in those categories better. They don't have a login for that.
They do not get to see the questions, but they get item specs, so they know specifically what the questions will cover. So that is built into sort of the standards, and saying that these are the things you should have covered week 1 through 4. Your question items will fall in these areas. And we have just as many people that will say, if we gave a full unit test for all 4 of those areas at 20 questions a piece, that kids are doing nothing but taking assessments. So it's really tough to kind of come up with that balance of what's too much and what's not enough. And so they will hear you, and they do recognize that. And our teachers, we've been doing sort of those quick checks for standards assessment for many years. And so a lot of them are fewer items. And basically what's happened right now, especially in K2, is going back to a graded report card. When you put those, how students perform into that percentage, or give it some numerical value that's attached to a letter grade, it just shifts. It shifts how people feel about it. And so, we've got some growing pains right now. But yeah, I'm absolutely available to you, and I appreciate that feedback, and we do need to hear that. So.
Okay, I'll get her contact information for you, Ashley, and then I'll share hers with
Can I don't know if it's similar to what she has, but I know last time when I went to school that they said that they had a science test. It was like an assessment test.
It's a district assessment.
Yes, that's what it was called, a district assessment. But anyway, they said they would have 5 more of it, he said. And I said, well, is that going to be part of the grading? He said, yes.
It's 60% of their grades. Every unit they have.
And I said, well, is there a way he can study for it? He says, I can I know the area that they need to work on. I don't have the test in front of me, but he says he would try to work with them. And I don't know if that is for all.
It's the same question that we're having.
Is
And
that-
yes,
is that
but I
for
have
all
the,
the
I have the
subjects or
breakdown.
just science?
It's all science. ELA
It's
has
all
standards mastery that is separate from the program that they use, but then they do the standards mastery assessment. That's the one where what the grade entered is different than the grade that they get. That's a whole nother field. But for science in particular, you know, I'm looking, for example, unit 1, it tells me the breakdown of those 5 questions, what standard they all come from, which actually this is incorrect because one of the questions came from a different standard. According to the pacing guide, the nature of science is a standard that's tested throughout the 4 years. Unfortunately, throughout the semesters, unfortunately, the textbook in the first unit doesn't cover nature of science. It only covers energy. So there's discrepancies here. And if Ryan is the one pulling the questions from the test bank, and I talked to USA Test Prep and they said there's tons of questions for each standard. So why we have 5 questions, which makes it a weight of 20% each question.
And one not even attached.
Yeah, and one of them not even attached to what was taught. And we're talking about, this was the same problem that the honors teacher had last year in the class, but she was actually allowed to, well, I don't know if she was allowed to, but she used book tests as well. She's now an assistant principal at another district, so she doesn't care if I say this. She used other tests. But a new teacher coming in, he's trying to follow the rules as best he can. The percentage for block 1, for his block 1 class, after they took that USA Test Prep, after spending the time in that chapter, in that unit, 38%. That was the class average. Pacing guide says 10 days to cover this content. There's 4 lessons. That means if you were trying to teach a lesson and assess, teach a lesson, assess, teach a lesson, assess, teach a lesson, assess, review, and then give them test prep, you're talking lesson and test every single day to prepare them for the test prep. And this is the dating starting from the first day of school. As if any teacher can get anything accomplished the first day, the first week of school.
District-wide is more of a getting to know you period. Anyway,
Right, it
It's
is,
like-
but that's not how the pacing guide reads. So, and again, this is maybe more specific that I can speak with her. I don't want to take up all the time, but my knowledge on this is not superficial. It goes deep. So I really want answers.
Sure. Well,
Well,
I
I think
appreciate you asking that, and I'll get you with Ashley, and then from there, you know, maybe with Ryan Zimmerman or Jen Azula.
Thank you.
And those are all good questions and concerns, and I'm sure others have the same concerns.
I just want to add to what she said with the zeros going to 50s, which, you know, I
get
agree,
it.
you know, that whole
get it.
making up for a few zeros is super difficult. But it's not just that, it's ELA with the standards. It's if you've received a 66 to a 79, you get an 80% entered in the computer. So my kid can get a 66 on a test and it's going to be entered as an 80.
For the mastery, that's worth 60% of their grade.
That, unless I'm reading this wrong.
No, that's
But
right.
I
That's
mean,
how it was explained
To
me.
me, that's not fair to the children.
Or the
Because you're,
parents.
the parents, it's not fair to the teachers, because we have, you know, if you give a child who receives, let's just say 66 all year, 80s, they're going on to that next teacher and they have a false assessment of what this child is really capable of.
So Ashley, if I can just kind of give a suggestion, it might be something we want to look into on having maybe Ryan and Jen's group and even the high school principals or someone who wants to talk about the way that the grading is done, to do maybe some videos that could be accessible to parents. Because they do work all the time. They might not be able to come in for meetings or something. So something that they could look at, and maybe we can get the information.
And we'll take
Better.
what we get here. You know, helps.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you, Michelle. That's a great idea.
I think that the high school was talking about, because I know their grading scale is different.
Yeah.
Is to have a meeting with the parents, because I know it.
Palatka did their meeting Tuesday night and answered a lot of questions. I know Crescent City High School is doing a family event Thursday night for our ELM migrant families, and then their seniors next Tuesday. But again, you know, that is, I think that Michelle is on point, that there is it's been a lot of shifting, and it is something we talked about last week, that we need to, I've got to get with teaching and learning about how we're communicating these changes to the community. And they're absolutely, all of these questions are things that Jen would want to hear and be able to respond to, and at least get back to her team and make sure that we are doing our best to be fair and equitable to our families and our teachers. So thank you for that. Other questions?
One more question.
Yeah, one more.
Last night, there was a parent meeting.
At Placa High
At
School,
Placa
yes.
High School. But I only found out when my grandson came home and told me. And he said, well, then I didn't know, but you have to like something on Facebook and then you can find out things, but I don't know if that was the right way to do that because not everybody does Facebook. I mean, I do, but I just didn't know where you had to go, so I went and liked it.
There are a couple ways we communicate with families. We use School Messenger a lot from the district, and the schools themselves need to be sure that they are also doing that. But be sure that your email address is correct in your child's Skyward account, because that is how they push out a lot of information, is through that email address. And then we do a lot of phone calls out as well. So all that's done through a system called School Messenger, and it pulls data. It pulls information data straight from Skyward, which is our student information system. So, yes, you're right. We need to communicate with something beyond just Facebook. So I'll make sure Mr. Stout, at least find out how he did that, and make sure next time that he's using multiple ways to push that information out.
Make sure that your phone number in there is correct also, because a lot of times parents' phone numbers change through the call out. A lot of times from year to year, parents forget to update that phone number and they're doing a call out to an old number. So
they thought about this Sunday, and they said that it was their mistake, and they normally do a call out.
Okay.
They didn't.
Okay, so in the future, they'll do a call out. Usually you get emails through, like Ashley said, through the email that's attached to your child's Skyward account, and then they do the call outs, and then on their website and then Facebook post.
Sorry, not separate but related. So my daughter was in 4th grade. Today she had her USA test prep for science, but the issue I have there is that we are 4 weeks into the school year, and most of our teachers have not gotten their books for their students to have. So all of the lessons that she's been doing on science, she's on a Chromebook reading, digital versions. I went and printed this out, but they don't have access to printed materials in the 4th grade right now because their books haven't come in. So they're trying to learn these lessons from a screen, reading, taking the lesson quizzes, which actually require a ton of inference. Like you could go through and have trouble answering these questions as an adult. That's their preparation for then a USA test prep, which is coming from a completely different source, just testing on the standards. But I'm not comfortable with my 4th grader being only in front of a screen. I want printed materials. I want her to be able to highlight, underline, bring it home, read with me, check for understanding, because that's the way I've always taught my children to prepare so that they have the tools to achieve their full potential, like it's stated in the mission. And right now, that's a tool that's missing from them. And I know that's not the district's fault, because I was told books were ordered in July, but that doesn't change the fact that the testing window is now, and they're still 4 weeks in, covering these units, trudging forward, and don't have the materials that they need. So
No,
that's
and unfortunately, due to COVID and staffing at all of these curriculums and our book warehouse in the state, there are book orders that are backed up at every school in the state right now. I will have to defend our teachers in terms of using the Chromebook. That is how kids are going to continue to be assessed moving forward. For FSA, whatever they switch to with the progress monitoring piece, every assessment they're given is computer based. So that is something we encourage in terms of at least letting kids have some strategies and using online highlighting tools and things like that, because that's what they have to do when they're assessed end of year. It's not, a lot of families don't like it. It's not ideal. I'm a paper pencil person. I prefer to have something in front of me, so I get it. But unfortunately, that's the way a lot of things are going. And we know with COVID and a lot of the home learning that occurred was also done via the Chromebooks. So I apologize that there are classrooms without materials that they need that are in front of the kids, but we are doing the best we can with that as well. So again, that's a question for Jen, and something you need to, when you talk to her, to please be sure you let her know that. Any other questions?
Do we have any updates on when this material is supposed to arrive?
I have no idea. I wouldn't. I mean, no, I would not. Jen would, but I don't. That's not, I didn't do the ordering for those materials, so I certainly wouldn't have that. I apologize. But I just know that throughout the state and throughout other districts, staffing at a lot of these warehouses has, it's a compounding problem with all ordering in general. So a lot of our funds aren't released until July 1. So we try to have orders ready to go the minute we have the funds to do so. But that doesn't always mean we're not getting them in time.
Yes, that's beyond their.
So then the idea is, just so I know, that we don't have the books, you have to use the computers, make the best of it.
But going forward, do we foresee a time when the kids will not have books, period? Is that what we're heading towards? Just curriculum in the future being digital and not even bothering with the physical books?
No, that's why we ordered books. So no, that's not the case. We do our best to make sure that they have it all kinds of ways in the classroom. They're just obviously not here yet. And Ryan provides a lot of supplemental materials. So we teach from a standard. So even if that book comes out and perhaps the first chapter, second chapter, that's really not how our teachers utilize a lot of the materials. They work from the standard, so they may not go straight from beginning to end of a book either. But again, that's where I feel like you could have a much more productive conversation with Ryan, and he could be real specific about what it is kids learned, what materials teachers were given, and he has a real command of that K-12. So any grade level in terms of science, he's going to be the person you can chat with about that.
And there are materials. I did teach science, and I actually was just thumbing through some of the science materials this week because that's one way that in a Cambridge program you can enrich through a science class and social studies. There's easy enrichment activities that you can do. So there is resources for each standard that the teacher's supposed to teach. And there'll be, a sheet that you could print, labs that you can do within the class. So there's other things that you can do besides the Chromebook.
I get that, but
Okay.
even in the science class that has a textbook right now, like she was saying, it doesn't come in a chapter, it's standards based. I get that, but it's nice to have some foundational thing that you go through because the teachers don't always have time. I don't know when they expect teachers to have time, especially a new teacher, to be able to research and pull what's going to work best. Maybe a seasoned
he's
teacher.
done that. That's
already done that. That's already done.
I was looking at just
Well,
this week.
then the training that's being given to the new teachers, because we have three new teachers in our 6th grade right now that are still trying to feel their way out as they're juggling these classes of 6th graders that would normally be at a middle school, and puberty's hitting and it's just crazy, and there's TikTok challenges destroying the bathrooms. They're just trying to survive. They don't have time to piece things together, or even not every resource that's provided isn't necessarily applicable. So there's so much. I'm willing to help in whatever way I can.
Right.
I'm not trying to attack y'all. I really feel like you have the kids' best interest at heart, but there is a huge disconnect between what's going on in the classroom and what the district thinks it's doing in the best interest. Because I hear the frustration from the teachers and from the parents, and even though our kids are top performing and we don't have to worry about them, they'll do fine, I still care about the ones in those classrooms when I go substitute and I see them struggling. It's just not.
Yeah, and I think your points are valid, and I hear you. I want to redirect you to work with Jen and that team, because I want to make sure that Michelle is able to cover what she needs to with this group today. And I've taken up a lot of her time already, I know. But we do hear you, and we do understand your frustration and appreciate what you do as a sub, because that is tough work. So you do get a good a good lens of all those perspectives from the parent and from the educator perspective. So we appreciate that. Any other questions for me?
I just have
One more question.
Is the pre-K, is pre-K offered at all the elementary schools?
So pre-K, we have, they're at the Mellon Learning Center. So we have the pre-Ks that were like here local schools, like right here in the heart of like centrally located. But then the schools in the West End, they still have the pre-K housed right there at their school. So like Jenkins Elementary School still has their pre-K. Middleton Burney Elementary still has their pre-K. But the other,
yeah.
Jenkins, Aquila, Melrose have
yes,
pre-K.
they have. They all have.
Palatka is.
And then then they have the Mellon Learning Center for pre-K.
So my concern is there is now a push for more learning, more structured learning in pre-K because there are a lot of studies behind the growth, the brain growth development, and how rapidly a child will learn from 0 to 3, especially. So I wanted to know more about any initiatives or any type of relations in the community to promote this, to promote parents to want to put their kids in pre-K. And the reason that I say this is this happened years ago, and this student is now in the 2nd grade and she's doing well. But when I spoke to her parents who are young parents, I asked, oh, do you have her at the pre-K center that's in our community? And their remark to me was, no, we're just gonna wait until her first day of kindergarten to enter her in the school. And that broke my heart. I couldn't tell parents that, but it broke my heart because learning, we all know now that learning doesn't start day 1 in kindergarten, you know? So I just wanted to know what, basically how we're trying to promote to parents and into to the community to change that stigma that these pre-K centers are available either at school or through RCMA or other learning centers. What are we doing and how can I help?
Thank you for sharing that. Jessica Stallings is our current pre-K coordinator, and her office is at Mellon this year. But that is a barrier we have all faced in public schools. We wish our pre-K classes were as large as our kindergarten classes. I can tell you through our Lift Putnam Foundation a few years ago, we do our very best. Some of the barriers that have come up for families that didn't want to enroll in pre-K have been around the cost. And so Lift Putnam provides scholarships to basically cover any of the wraparound costs that are not covered in the VPK funding. So pre-K is not a funded program. So we have VPK centers just like our CMA and some of our local daycares providing this 4-year-old VPK program. So our pre-K centers run just like any VPK center, where those first 3.5 hours are funded through VPK funds. And then the wraparound, we have to provide a full day to pay our teachers. And so we do have to charge for the other hours. But Lift Putnam has subsidized that for most of our families. So we're thankful for that. But yes, I would, if you, Michelle, you can get her information to Jessica Stallings. We are always looking for ways to push out and do more roundup services and getting our kids in pre-K programs. So far, the advantages right now for the Mellon Learning Center pre-K program is typically in an elementary school of 700 kids, you might have 2 pre-K classes, right? So we can only have what show up. And so sometimes our pre-K teachers kind of work in isolation. They're a VPK center. They are the only class, or maybe there's 2 classes at a school. Having them together at Mellon Learning Center this year has been phenomenal in terms of having those teachers being able to collaborate with lesson planning and doing activities together. So this is our first opportunity to have that all in one place. of course, on the west end, the pre-K classes are still at the elementary schools and at the south end, but that's been a really nice and unique sort of outcome of the consolidation, is having those all together. But yeah, Michelle, if you'll get her information to Jessica, I know Jessica's always looking for community input and ways to reach out and get more families involved. But I hear you and totally agree. Early learning is the way to go. And we believe here at the district, from conversations at the state level, that pretty soon universal pre-K is going to be paid for by the state. We think it's coming. It may not be this year or next year, but it continues to come up in legislation, and it is on the way, where it would be paid for a full day for families very soon, like some of the other states have already done.
About that too.
Yeah.
The director spoke last year of pre-K, and she did such an awesome job. I was the first time she recommended a book, 30 Million Words. I read it because my son is in pre-K. She's awesome. But she comes and tries to promote it through PIDAC and really trying to get kids plugged into it. But she's awesome. So she'll come probably speak at PIDAC, I'm assuming, and she's really, really awesome for our district.
Can I ask a question about 6341?
Ashley, if you need to go back to your meeting, Ashley, I'll let you go. Michelle's here that can answer about 21st century, okay? So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Higginbotham's here that actually runs that, is right here. She's the director of that, so she can answer.
I got questions. The big thing is like my grandson, I think he could use some extra help in math. But the program, he goes like, but he has been at 5:30, and then I'm trying to think about when he's going to eat in between.
So it starts right after school's out and they get a snack. We do provide them with a snack before they go into what they call homework help and the academic piece of that. And that usually lasts about an hour for them to get academic tutoring. And the high schools, and actually all of the schools, really alternate days. Like on Mondays and Wednesdays, we may work on ELA, English Language Arts tutoring, and helping them with homework. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the focus is on math. So we've got different teachers in the secondary schools that would come in that are basically kind of content specialists for that, to really help them, because as we all know, math and everything kind of gets a little bit more difficult, the higher they go up in that. So we like to have that focus for different days at the secondary schools with different teachers. Elementary, we usually have, sometimes different schools do it and they have different teachers come in and do work on different days. But they all get a snack right after school ends. They go in and start on their academic enrichment. And then they get a little 5-10 minute break to transition to what we call personal enrichment. Personal enrichment is different at every school. Sometimes it's arts and crafts, sometimes it is music, it can be physical activity, it can be welding, it can be ag, it can be credit recovery for some of our kids that are in secondary that need to recover a grade. And so they can do credit recovery during that time for their personal enrichment. So it's kind of just dependent upon what the interests are of students at that school that we offer that. But it goes from, the high school starts at 3:50 and they end at 6:20. It's 2.5 hours.
Somebody was telling me last night, if you went from 4 to 5, it would be just as, it makes it hard, but he's going from there to band practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Miss McCraney is actually working and doing some enrichment through 21st century. So the kids that are in band are able to still stay and do the academic piece. But there again, in order for us to really have the program with the way that it was federally intended, and it comes from grants from US DOE. It's a federal grant, and we have certain things in which, certain measures in which we have to make sure that we are helping kids and improving them. Kind of like a return on investment for the money they are giving for the grant. There's an accountability piece there. So we have to offer the academic. And this year we're in totally different new measures that we're having to do. That's more focused on reading and math, as well as high-risk behaviors, attendance, behavior, discipline and behavior, and also engagement in the learning process. So we have to make sure that we are meeting the needs through time spent, it's called dosage, on those elements to see the impact of it. So the first hour is always academic.
Well, seems like something that would be good. I just don't. I just burn out. It seems like I could be at school. Being burdened on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's when his band practice.
Right.
And then he also does rock.
Yeah. Yeah. And welcome to high school life again. I know you said you're a man and you've been there and done that. It's like on steroids now, probably from when his parents were in. I mean, I've raised 4 and I think a lot of us have them. They are very busy and active.
They run from
But
one
it's
thing
a
to the
good,
next.
it's a good thing. It's a good thing for them to be active and for them to be in those activities with people so that they are learning, you know, social skills and accountability and responsibility for being busy.
And a lot of times if they stay, I mean, that's a good time for them to make sure that homework, you know, they've completed their homework or they're ready for that test that's Friday because they get that extra support before, like he goes to band, like you were saying, because those that stay and get that extra help and support, they're typically not procrastinating and putting things off until the end. They have their things ready to go by the end of the week. They're ready for their test instead of scrambling at the end of a 9 weeks and going, oh my gosh, I have all of these terrible grades and how can I fix it in an hour? Because that's what high schoolers do.
Ms. Renner is the site coordinator at Palaca Junior Senior High School. So I can get with you when we're done here, and I'll be happy to answer any more questions you might have and get him in touch with her, maybe so he can help make that decision.
Do you know the name of, because I've got Brian Zimmerman's name.
I have it all written down for you.
What about for
Mhm.
for history, for social studies? Who's
That's-
in charge of that?
He's social
Yeah, he does
Yeah.
that. Okay, all right.
Is he? I thought Adam Azula was doing more social studies now.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He may be supporting him more, but at least when you talk to Ryan, if Ryan can't help you with the
He
social
can
studies
push
piece,
that way.
he can put you with Adam, but he
It
might be
seems like-
supporting him.
And maybe you know this, but last year, 6th grade was using this textbook. Her daughter is in 8th and came home and said, oh, we're using the same textbook. And then when I'm looking at the actual pacing guide for world cultures, it's now called Engaged Citizenship through Service Learning. And there's only 3 units actually completed on the pacing guide. So it's like, what changed? Why did it change? I loved this book. I was really looking forward to my child doing this in the 6th grade because it gives a great perspective, but this isn't even like complete. So the teachers are having to piece together and why
civic?
Yeah, it's like pre-civics. Why are we doing pre-civics in
Rather
6th
than
grade if they just took it in 7th grade? Like what happened there?
It could be driven by the course code number. There could have been a change in the course code number that they were looking at doing. I know Sixth grade, different schools did either world cultures, they did social studies. So there's a lot of different sixth grade and seventh and eighth grade courses that they could take in each school, depending on what they wanted to do as far as front loading civics for the required seventh grade
So now
test.
they're
They
trying
may
to
have
streamline maybe and say, this is what we're gonna do district-wide. So will they turn around and have this then at some point?
Well, we have it
That would
named-
be
we have
a
it named
question
grade.
for the teaching and learning department. I mean, I don't want to speak
No,
out on
Yeah,
that,
for
but,
Ryan and Brian.
because they
Yeah.
have,
Sure.
because they have looked at trying to streamline that since we
Yeah.
have condensed it for
And
7
that's
to
cool
12.
and all. I just
Yeah.
didn't know, 'cause I was like,
So
why?
that's what, you hear what you said, that's where Ashley comes in, where she needs to know, you don't know that. That's where
Yeah.
Ashley can go, hey, get with Jennifer Azula and say, hey, we need to be communicating that.
Yeah.
Um,
I
drop
mean,
the
I
district.
don't think most parents care,
No.
frankly, but I care when I look at the curriculum map and I know this book
Yeah.
because I've had a kid go through it and I've subbed. And then I'm like, wait, what are you doing next? And she's like, well, don't know yet. We've been told. And then that 40% of their grade is going to come from a service project.
Yeah.
Okay, and it could be the course, so it is.
Depends on what course, like
The
Michelle said,
actual
it's the
course
course
is
code number.
engaged. Well, it doesn't give me the course code here, but it's engaged citizenship. So it's no longer, this just happened to be the book that they already had.
Yeah.
And so they're saying, well, you can pull from the first 2 chapters to cover
Right.
geography and citizenship, but from there on out,
It's a resource.
There's
The
nothing
text-
here.
Yeah, the textbook is just a resource for them to be able to teach that standard. And there's probably additional resources that they have
Yeah.
used.
and again, I want a book for my course.
I get it.
But
I get it. I'm
40% of their grade is going to come from a service project in semester 1, and that has me confused.
Is this what grade level?
6th grade.
6th grade, okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're trying to streamline more to getting kids prepared and ready for civics because there
To
is
front
that.
load that.
Yeah, because that is it.
I just don't like piecemeal because I feel like my kids always end up as a guinea pig group going through. Every time my kids hit a grade, things change. And I really like it when there's already been something established and the teacher's not having to kind of wonder, you know? Like, I want something that's been tested, been tried and true. I'm tired of my group, my kids always being the ones that end up in that guinea pig group. When I didn't see anything wrong with the way it was before, didn't see anything wrong with the way that you and I were raised, and we memorized our multiplication facts in 3rd grade, and now we have 6th graders that still can't multiply.
Right.
And then we have the curriculum map. So we have, at our school, we have a 6th grade honors program, and we have the regular kids, right? Just regular 6th grade. 6th grade honors is supposed to bring in 7th grade standards to enrich so that they're ready for QI or whatever. Fine. 2 different curriculum maps entirely. 6th grade honors, believe it or not, starts off with multiplication, division of fractions, decimals, absolute value, building up. 6th grade regular class, the kids that struggle are doing ratios, which requires a grasp on equivalent fractions, equivalent ratios, multiplication, division, which they do not have. So right out of the gate, they are struggling, they feel defeated. They are using the curriculum Engage New York, which back in 2014, whoever had run the superintendent at the time had promised we wouldn't have to use that anymore. And then we were given the Ready books in the meantime, which wasn't much better. Why is my 6th grade teacher right now at that school having to pull Engage New York curriculum when there's so many better things out there 7 years later after they were told, no, you won't have to use that? So it's frustration.
Yeah,
there.
so it sounds like you have a lot of different pieces under Jen Azula's group.
She's like, just
Instruction and
touch it.
curriculum.
And
it's
it's
a-
somebody coming here.
Yeah,
At
and
time
it-
that has-
right.
Yes.
And I
absolutely.
did ask Jen,
Yes.
if she could come speak October, November. She has not let me know which day works best for her, so I was gonna have her anyways to go over. Well, no, for all of your questions, but I wanted her to speak specifically of the new curriculum that they pushed out this year, specifically to that. But you have a lot more in-depth questions. No, it's okay, but you will need to just meet with, Jen, and maybe she could pull in her team, and you can schedule an appointment to meet with them. They're all in this last hallway, their offices, so kind of meet together, maybe in a conference room and kind of.
Oh, they're here in the federal.
Yeah,
they're
they
down
moved
there.
here. So we have ESE departments on the 2nd wing, and then the 3rd wing is curriculum instruction, and most of us are on the 1st wing, so. No, thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? Because,
Well, yes.
Yes.
I just have a comment.
yes,
Please don't let, I want to hear more. You know, I understand you laid out your concerns, but these are concerns that we will probably also have. So,
oh, no,
once,
absolutely.
You know, once you're able to firm down a date with Jen Azula, I would love to hear.
Well, and hopefully from these conversations, they're gonna push out and have, you know, like Michelle suggested that, you know, the principals do a video explaining things. So hopefully there's gonna be more information pushed out to everyone based on our meeting and these conversations.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I like to have this kind of.
Yes,
And
exactly.
likewise, we were
Yeah.
interested in what you had to say about pre-K too, because we know how important pre-K was for our children and what a benefit that is. So I'm definitely interested to see if there's anything we can do to help with community awareness of that program as well.
Thank you.
I think what helped Shaw have been in the school, and you see what's going on, whereas we're kind of the parents like looking.
But see, those parents still need to know too,
Yeah, they
because you
do.
don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah.
sometimes that helps whenever they push out some information like that and
There's so many sides. to
right,
all
and the
of it.
communication, exactly.
And please put all of your feedback and questions and concerns on her survey.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna help drive. the
Right.
next
That gets
And what
everything on,
meeting
you
yes,
got a video,
that we
but you need it
have.
on
So,
paper. So
right.
you know, we
And
need
what
to
you're
forward that to
interested
Jen.
in hearing more about, and that directs me on who I should have come to speak, because I want it to be beneficial for you guys and not a waste of your time, and I want it to be people in the community.
I just got one question. There's a teacher that Jacob has, and I cannot find how to email her.
Okay.
Last night, I went to email and it popped back at me. So.
And it could be they have a number within their name, but we can help you after the meeting.
I
we
can
help you.
actually help you with that. As soon as we talk in just a
You're
few
a lot
minutes.
of help.
I can get
Who
you
updates
the
the
correct
district
email.
website? Who does that?
Jamie, who does that? Ashley does it? Okay,
Ashley,
'cause-
so she's like over communication.
Okay,
over
that makes sense.
Some
Does she-
videos, Facebook, you'll hear all that, that's
In the
all.
past, I could find curriculum maps on the website. In the last 2 years, there's no, that link is disabled. There's no way to pull curriculum maps. And I like to know.
So right now, just because I know Jamie is taking care of it for federal programs, and it's a whole platform and they're building that. So like she was working all day yesterday on ours, so I am sure that is something that someone is currently working on, that it's just not ready yet.
Because last year it disappeared and I was like.
No, it's just because they're reformatting and with the new logo and
Yeah,
like
a
they
lot of
used
our
to.
stuff isn't on there yet.
Right.
Because the new logo needs to be put on there. That's where we put all our.
Yeah, so that is coming, but I mean, I'm sure that she's working on it because they're giving everyone their piece. All right, anything else? Because I'm gonna do some drawings, and these are materials that I want you to be able to take back to your school, to give to your school, teachers, media specialists, however you still see fit to give to the school for being here. So if I draw your number, I want you to come up and pick 2 items to take back to your school with you. So the first number, and I don't have my glasses on and I can't. I'm getting that age. I don't know why I try to go without them. So it's 823-883. All right.
Big math stuff.
And I'll do, I'm gonna do 3 of these. So this is the second one. It's 823. Oh my gosh. 890. 890. There's like some genius square, they like to do things like that, like this right here. Maybe, you know, making words or something, so, or this game note. That's the high school one.
You should help me.
Biological life.
This is your school.
Sorry, let me go do a practice. Would this be good? All right, one more. 823-891. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for coming. Hopefully y'all have my email. If not, you can call federal programs to get that. But if you have any questions or concerns or something you thought about after the meeting, send that to me. Don't forget to do your survey because I'm going to collect all that data and all that information. But, you know, I want to make these meetings meaningful for you guys, and who I invite, maybe one or two speakers is going to be directed, you know, by you guys, what you want to hear. So please go eat, make some coffee, get something to drink, mingle. We don't have to be out of here at any certain time. So have conversations among yourself, but please eat. There's plenty of food over there. And thank you again, and reach out to me if y'all need anything.